Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. In this video I'm going to show you how to create custom dialog boxes. So I have an example here. This is a list of people with their name, their profile picture and a status. So if I click one of these, it opens the custom dialog box with the picture at the top, the name and the status centered, and there's some text at the bottom as well. Alright, so before we get to creating something like this, which as you can see, if we click on another one, is creating for each list item. Before we get into this, let's just do the basics. Let's create the most basic dialog box and go from there. So I have a brand new project here. I've called it custom dialog example. And in the XML, all I have is a single button with the ID of button. So in my Java, what I'll do is I'll create my button variable and I'll connect to my XML with button is equals to find me by ID, r.id.button, and then I will set a click listener, so button.set on click listener, new on click listener, and in here I will create the dialog. So as you might imagine, if it's a custom dialog, we have to design the custom view. And to do that, we create an XML by clicking layout, new, layout resource file, and giving it a name. But I don't need to do that. I already have my custom dialog XML here. So all I have to do is design it. And I'll keep it simple for this example. All I will have is an image, this one is fine, although I will make it a little bit wider, so 200 dp, and 200 dp for the width and the height. Next I will throw in some text, so text view there, and I'll give it the ID of text, and the text will be some text. This is just an example. And finally a button, and I'll leave that just like that and give it dialog button as the ID. Alright. Now for this text, what I can do is I can change its color. So I'll make the color white, which will make it disappear because I'm going to change the background, and I will make its size 30 dp. Okay. Next thing I will do is I will work on the relative layout itself. So first of all, I want it to wrap the widgets like so and like so, and then I want it to be in the center, so I'm going to go to the text part, look for relative layout, and on a new line I'll just start typing gravity, select this one and select center, or no, let's get rid of that. Gravity, select layout gravity and select center, and there we go, it goes to the middle. Okay, and then finally let's change the background. So background is equals to color primary, and there we go. One final thing we can do is we can give it some padding so that it's not totally hugging the widgets. So padding, and padding can be, let's try 30 dp. That's a bit much. 20 dp. There we go. Alright, now over to the main activity. We now have a design for our custom dialog. We can start actually creating the dialog. So first we create the object. Dialog is equals to new dialog, and then we need to give this context. So of course I haven't created the context variable. Let's do that. Context. And we initialize here. Next, we have to set this dialog object to this XML. So we say dialog.set content view r.layout.custom dialog. So notice that it's similar to what we do in our main activity, or rather what is done by default. So whenever we have a new activity such as this, our main activity, we have this this method set content view r.layout.activity main, which links it to this activity main. Same thing for a dialog. We have a new dialog here. So the first thing we do is we set the content view to the custom dialog XML. And now I'm just going to run dialog.show. And let's see what happens. And here it is. And when I click the button, we get our dialog brought to the front with everything else shaded out. So with just these 3 lines of code, we can create a dialog box, and then of course having our XML already defined. So it's as simple as that. But of course this dialog doesn't do anything yet, which is fine. Perhaps we might want a static message to be shown, right? But also the whole point of creating a custom dialog should be that you can have extra functionality with it. So let's see what else we can do. First, since we have these widgets, we should actually make use of them. So let's use those widgets. The first thing we'll do is we'll declare them. So image view is equals to dialog.findViewById r.id.imageView. ImageView2, let me check. Yes, the ID was ImageView2. Alright, next, text view is equals to dialog.findViewById r.id.text. And finally, button dialog button is equals to dialog.findViewById r.id.dialog button. There we go. So notice that it's the exact same process. When we have a button in our activity, we say button is equals to findViewById, with the only difference being you have to add dialog dot for it to know that you're working with a dialog. Now we can set an OnClickListener, dialog button dot set OnClickListener, new OnClickListener, and we can change the image view. So image view dot set image resource r.drawable. I'll just pick whatever the first one on the menu, for example, I suppose this. Let's see what that is. Okay, that'll work, I suppose. Next, we can change the text. So text view dot set text, more text, and that should be fine. So let's run it again and see what happens. And there it is. So click the button, and there's our dialog. And when I click this button, it changes. So now I have a different image and I have a different text. So that is how you work with custom dialogs. So now let's switch. Let's move over to a somewhat more interesting example of this. I have another project open. It's called Recycler View Example, and it has a recycler view. So it's the one that I showed you at the beginning. Let's open it here. There it is. So now in this one, when you click a particular item on the list, you get the dialog box populated with the details for that item. So for example, here we get this particular image view, this name, and this status. So let's just take a look at the code. Since we already know how to create a dialog box, let's just look at the code that we need to write this. So here we have what we would already expect. Dialog is equals to new dialog. We set the content view. We declare the widgets and we connect them with find view by ID. But now let's look at how we changed the values of the widgets. So for the image, the image view is called d-icon, and here I've used set image resource. And for the name, I've used set text, and for the status, I've used set text. And what I am calling is this person object, which I declared up here. So each list item is created using a person object, and all we have to do is to get the person object at that position using the get position method, and then we can simply get its values. So its icon, its name, and its status. I encourage you to take a look at the previous video I made showing you how to work with recycler views, and you'll be able to see more clearly how we got even this person object and how we worked with the recycler view. But that is it. That is how you create custom dialog boxes. So now you're able to be more creative with your Android applications, to put more functionality in them and to make them look a little bit better now that you know how custom dialog boxes are created. That is all. Thank you very much.